Yes. Yeah. But you see, unemployment is not a good reason, but it is a correct answer. People are giving birth to many children. I want to hear it. There is an answer.
Like to the side of refugees, people give birth to a lot of children to increase on their rations, the money they get from UNHCR.
Yes. That's a very good point. Yes.
There is bad weather, especially take an example.
That's a very good point. Let me tell you, when I came to Fort Potro, it was very cold for me last night. But me, I didn't give birth to a child. There was something. So what she's saying, because of bad weather, people have too much sex. So as time goes by, we become 20s, 30s, we become sexually active. Is that right? So we move from here and we come somewhere here in the middle of the pyramid. When we get in the middle of the pyramid, you know what happens? We become sexually active. And because we are so many people having sex here, again, we give birth to so many children. Okay? So we come back again here. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So now when you look at developed countries, it is now like this. So there are so many young people, very many aging, okay? So it is like ensuju. You know ensuju? You know pumpkin? It is like that. Key considerations. I'm running late. We have a very big youth population. So because of the pyramid I've told you, you know what happens? There is no work, we migrate. Now, the refugee problem we have in Uganda could be because of conflict. But now Ugandans going to the Middle East is because of a very big youthful population that we can't absorb. Okay? So it leads to a dependency burden. Someone said that when we are so many, very few people are working, it leads to this. So as the big youth population starts to work, the country starts to realize a demographic dividend. Okay? There's a decrease in the dependent population. Now, in our conversation today, people are going to talk about a demographic dividend. Okay? I said we are going to use very simple words here. But it is just to say, can we enjoy some benefits as a result of a change in the age structure? And the age structure is about the population pyramid I showed you, that we need to reduce on the number of young people. We should start using contraception when sex, okay? Where we get better quality education, we go to good schools, you know what I mean? We get better medical care, we eat well and all that. Okay. Yes. Now, I'm just trying to illustrate the dependency problem. When you look at the orange, and let me tell you, just illustration. When demographic dividend is accelerated at the benefits, it means that we'll have more money in the pocket to save. When we are so many, taking care of very few people working, taking care of so many people, we can't find what to save because we end up eating everything, isn't it? Let me tell you, even me, I struggle. Every day, they will tell me, now there is no food, there is nothing. You get it? So we struggle. That even if you wanted to save, even if you can take care of your family, you have a cousin, you have a brother, you have someone who is saying, please send me some money. Increase in investment, increase in development, decrease consumption, okay? But also the effect of retirement relative to fertility levels. Now, the caveat is that for us to get all this, we need to have jobs, okay? Production must increase. Our factories must produce so much. In that case, we'll have so few people going out of the country or migrating. We'll have very few people cutting down trees, okay? When I came here in the morning, I was the first to come here. Let me tell you, I stood here and I was looking at the environment. When you stand here at lunchtime, You know what you're going to see? They have brought a lot of soil and they're trying to fill up this. Is it a swamp? They are trying to do farming, construction, and all that. But that is a swamp. There are benefits of a swamp, catchment area, it protects the wildlife and all that. They are doing this because of population, isn't it? But also it can prevent urban crime. The effect of Uganda's demographic change on development, there is an increase in the urban population. What are the consequences? When we have so many people in the urban areas like Kampala, the urban crime goes up. Okay? Because everyone is surviving, is fighting to survive. They want to have food, transport, and all that. Okay? So they engage in petty crime. But also food shortages. What are the reasons? Because of time. I came up with this presentation because I wanted it to be very participatory. So now, I said, I would think, or I had hoped that you would give me the reasons why we have little food. But because of time, we'll skip that. Because Lucy says we are running late. And also the effect of climate change. Social policy and human capital development, for example, not enough schools, input, textbooks, and classrooms. Your students, in your school or institute, you will tell me there is no enough material, apparatus, and the laboratory and all that because of that. So we have school dropouts, we have talked about that, not enough skills, we have talked about poor quality education, but we have also talked about congestion. Okay. So, what do we learn from healthcare systems? We have, and by the way, you're training as health professionals, isn't it? You realize when you finish and you're deployed, the hospitals where you're going to work, you're going to find so many patients to work on, but they're just one individual. Okay? So the doctor to patient ratio is very small. The nurse to patient ratio. You know, one morning you will come and you find 15 women want to give birth. You are one person, but you have to save their lives. Not enough medicines, not enough manpower. Okay? So we can talk about this many times. Political conflict, what are the likely causes? Increase in population, mostly as a result of an increase in urban population. Unemployment, you talked about it, unemployment. You know, these are two different concepts. You agree? Yeah? I wanted to ask you the difference, but because of time, let's just skip that. Low pay, poor working conditions, poor jobs, insecurity, and violence. Land conflicts, we have a very complex land tenure system. Different arrangements in different civil. In this country, let me tell you, are you aware that we have places where the land titles don't work? Are you aware? So because of this very complex land tenure system in the country, it has put everyone upside down. So we are talking about private land, customary land, state-owned land, and it is very ambiguous. By the way, when we keep talking about state-owned land, it is vague. Do you know that? What is state-owned land? Some people say it's public land, but we'll not go into that debate. Okay. So inequality, what causes this? You know, some people have a lot, others don't have. Okay? It is very high at early stage of development. When you look at our country like Uganda, we are not a developed country, so the inequality is very high. It gets worse when you go to countries like South Africa. Okay? So, we have things like malign wars, economic crisis that reduce incomes of rich people, Benin, unemployment benefits, subsidized education, and subsidized foods. Okay? When we say malign wars, we're just saying, can we find a way of how we can reduce the high incomes that have been amassed by rich people? When we talk about the Benin approach, we're just saying we have so many unemployment benefits. The country can give subsidized education so that the inequality problem comes down. Urbanization, what causes that? We know that when people move from one area to another and the increase in population is high, the place become urbanized, isn't it? Like for example, Tooro. You know how Tooro became urbanized? People started coming here, the population increased and all that, became an urban area. Climate change and natural resources, I've talked about this. An example is here. People are bringing soil. They're trying to fill up the swamp. Energy demand access. What are the causes? Again, I've given an example. The refugee question. Okay? Now, when I was starting my talk, I told you I'm going to tell you why I keep coming to Fort Potro. I go to Chaka, Ramwanja, and Kamwenge. I do a lot of work in refugee settlements. Recently, we've just finished a study on induced abortion. It is very sensitive, but we're trying to look at how refugees, access services after giving birth, after having an induced abortion or a spontaneous abortion, okay? So we do a lot of work in refugee settlements. Before the year breaks, we are going to commission a study on unintended pregnancies, again in refugee settlements among women, okay? It's going to be funded by FCDO. So that's mostly what I do. But let me tell you something. The effect of this on different sectors. The first one is child protection, okay? They have come for me. They are saying I should get away. Gender-based violence, health, and education. This is what the refugee question does. And let me just tell you about violence. You can't see these words, but quickly. We are talking about unintended pregnancy. That's the study we are going to commission before the year breaks. We are talking about HIV, STDs. When these young girls come or migrate or they go to these places, okay, because of survival, they engage in very risky sexual behavior. And it puts their lives at risk, and it makes them susceptible to getting these STIs and STDs. We can talk about things like violence being associated with HIV transmission. We have forced sex and STIs. When I was in Chiriandongo is a refugee settlement. We had conversations with some refugees, and they said, there are some girls who actually forced into engaging in sexual acts. So there's forced sex, and the relationship is at least HIV infection. Because of time, I think I need to skip some of this. And I go to the way forward. What's the way forward? We need to the population through promoting the use of modern contraception. This is very key. I keep telling young people, contraceptive use is the new kid on block. Okay. We can't hide, we can't run away from the fact that we are having sex. Is that right? We need to use contraception. Put the population, but you see now there is a caveat. These opportunities must be available. Streamline land reforms to boost production and development. Involve both tenants and landlords. We've said we have a very fake, complex land tenure system. Eliminate bureaucratic tenancies in government structures, improve service delivery, and reduce unnecessary costs. When you go to public institutions, they will say you need to write to this one, then from this one endorses, the other one endorses, then from there to the other one. And that is all money lost. Which money would have invested in other sectors? I know that we'll have questions and some contributions. And I want to thank you very much. I want to apologize as I end that I've spoken for so long, and I will never do it again, Lucy. Thank you very much.
A hand clap for Dr. Kisache. You didn't speak for long. It's the crisis management in the morning that is disturbing us. Mr. Magara, Robert, I need the Udro team to help us move away this podium and put the chairs for the panel. And put it behind the red chair. Yeah. Okay. Did we enjoy Dr. Kisache? Did we learn? Can we thank him again? If you want to enjoy more of him, you may have to go to Makerere and learn more about demography. Dr. Peter, thank you so much. I think your students must be lucky. You are a very engaging person. I went and sat behind there. I've been sitting behind for some minutes to see if they are listening. Even behind they are listening. I thought that is a powerful gift. So thank you for blessing us with it. He's going to stay around so that you can engage him also during the break times. Now, as we planned this, one of the tools, you are in a very lucky generation, the youths of today. One of the lucky things you have is in your hands. It's called a what? It's called a what? What's the lucky, one of the lucky things, objects you have? The smartphone. It's one of the best inventions so far. In just your phone, you can learn demography and all about it by a click away. Unfortunately, it's also one of the most destructive tools you have. If you don't control it, it will do what? So I know some of you will go away from here empty because of that blessing of a what? A smartphone. Ah, there is mine telling me Jumia. Please keep away your phones and listen so that you can pick something, unless you're using them for notes. If you're not an organizer like me who has to be checking out things, just control your phones. Yeah? It's part of self-control, to control the things that are within your power. I now want to welcome 5 youths, Mr. David Mugara, who will be the moderator for the next session. I noticed we are going to have challenges. When I was behind, I couldn't see down here. But as he introduces the panelists, as they come, you see their faces, then you will hear their voices. Yeah? They are going to discuss what has been shared by Dr. Kisache, what comes to you as youths from this conversation. Let's clap for Mugara. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucy. It's Mugara. Yes. Good afternoon. As Lucy said, the sitting posture may not be appropriate. I think I will request that the panelists, as they're going to speak, each one of them, I will request them to stand. I think that would be appropriate for our brothers and sisters who are behind. All right. Allow me to invite our panelists for today. Under this topic, we're going to discuss the intersection between migration and demography in Uganda. So they will be critiquing, but also showing in practical experiences from the life that they live, but also from the positions they hold and where they belong. Join with me to invite, these days they don't call them the refugees, they are called persons of concern. Yes, and that is the inclusive language today. And they are brothers and sisters. We'll invite one vibrant lady. She's from Ramwanja Refugee Settlement. She works with a number of but also inspiring other female ladies in the settlement to speak up and also voice their concerns, but also improve their livelihoods. Join with me to invite Chizanye Jacinta. Please, Jacinta, you're welcome. As she comes, she will also be sharing with us experience from Ramwanja, but also representing the refugee population in this country. We shall have Sylvia Winter, who is also a partner with the organizers, but also from Achali, Manzi, and Company Advocates. Sylvia, you're welcome. And lastly, we shall have Ahura Ivan. Ahura Ivan has different dignitaries and positions that he holds, and is one of the key passionate people in Tooro. He works with the Staff United for Development Research Organization. He's also a Tooro Regional Coordinator for High Schools, and also he's the Anti-District Coordinator for Nyangabu, Anti's Alliance for National Transformation, but also I'm happy that he's also with his president here. So, Mr. Ahura, you're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, the discussion we had today is quite elaborate from what Doctor presented, but there are a number of reflective questions that we need to reflect with him. Maybe he will have time to come back and share, especially when he makes the recommendations as pertains the aspects of managing the population. And we are here for rejuvenating the lion of Tooro. And there has been a key debate in Tooro region about our numbers. Do our numbers speak for us? How shall we stand in the coming future? Shall our population be able to compete favorably? HIV prevalence, especially among the youth, particularly for Tooro sub-region, and most importantly for Fort Portal and Kabarole. There are quite worrying statistics when it comes to HIV prevalence. Fort Portal of recent was ranked by the Uganda National AIDS Association, how we were leading with 17.8% compared to the national average prevalence rate of 5.7%. It's quite appalling. The question is, how are we going to rejuvenate this lion if the scourge of HIV is on the rise, especially among the young people? These are reflective questions that I wanted us to ponder about. And we may not have the answers, but we shall reflect jointly because we are planning for our generation. I am going to begin with my sister from the settlement, Chizanye Janta. Uganda is the second largest refugee hosting country in the world, and the leading in Africa with a population of 1.5 million refugees. Out of the 1.5, 24% are youth. A bigger population of the women, because about 84% of the refugees are women and children, meaning that's the biggest population that you represent. Would love to hear your views when it comes to migration, but also your well-being in the settlement. Are there factors that also push you to move outside the settlement, because we know we have urban refugees who run away from the settlement by which is caused by different factors. So I would love you to share with us your experience. What are those factors that drive the young people from the settlement to move, to look for different alternatives outside? You don't want to be specific on different areas, on different interests, but you would love to share your experience as pertains the people of concern in the different settlements. Thank you. You'll also introduce yourself. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. By the name of Kizanye Jacinta from Ramanda Refugee Settlement. I'm a refugee. I came from Democratic Republic of Congo. I came to Uganda in 2012. By then I was in primary 6, but due to civil wars and ethnic tribes in DRC, when I arrived in Uganda, I was in primary 6. It made my education to decline a bit because we had to learn where we have come to. So by then, I joined primary 7 in 2015. Because of my talent, I got a scholarship. I went to Chureka CU Church of Uganda. That's when I completed my primary 7 from. Then I went to St. Augustine's College, Wakiso. For those who come from Kampala, I know you know there. But it was all about talent. I used to sing, dance. So that's where I got my scholarships from. Then from O level, I joined Ruzira Senior Secondary School. It's in Ruzira. From there, I failed to get tuition to take me to the university. That's when I decided to come back from where we resettled from our country of origin, and that's Ramanda Refugee Settlement. From there, I started to volunteer with AWAD, African Women and Youth Action for Development. It's an organization in Ramanja, and I am also a volunteer in Ereka Foundation. It deals with football with youth. That's me, for now. So the push factors that lead youth to move from one place to another, like us, when we came from DRC, those were civil wars from the border, and it was the border of Rwanda, where rebels used to come into our country abruptly. You're sleeping at night, you hear guns from nowhere. So it made us to run. Some of us, we left our, we lost parents. As some of us, we ran. Like, of course, if a war comes, you can't remember even carrying a cloth. You just come as you are. So some of us, we lost our parents. From there, we came to Uganda. We found different faces, different people. So those are the civil wars. Then you have unemployment due to war. You find yourself, the war was there, you were working somewhere, but due to the war, you ran because of unemployment. Of course, you can't live without anything. We have lack of food due to wars. When wars happened, like the deforestation, infertility of the soil, like lack of clean water, because people were just moving anyhow. You couldn't get clean water for what? For drinking. First migration due to wars. So according to me, that's it. And very many youth move from Ramwanja going to Kampala in places of Kisenyi. You find Somali refugees there interacting with the nationals. But, for a good of them, they found their Ugandan Somalis, which helped them to interact because of the languages, religious affairs with them. So you find that they are making businesses, life is moving on well. Yeah. Even first we have the traditional wear, the Bichenges, if you know them. That's our traditional wear in Congo. So refugees move from Ramwanja to Kampala, dealing in such businesses with tailors in around, because they know doing different fashions and designs. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll come back to you, but when we come back, you may be reflecting on if the youth that have moved are really having a better life, especially those that are coming out from the refugee settlements. You will discuss that in the next round. I would love to go to, let's have a balanced panel now. I would love to go to Ahura, Ivan. Ivan is a very passionate Tooro, but also he has a medical background. And one of the things he has been doing, he has been pushing for the people of Tooro in different tertiary institutions. At least I know that he has been heading the Tooro students and a number of other Tooro organizations. We want to know, Ivan, from your interaction, especially with the young people of our age, what would be the driving factors for them to move outside this region? Tooro is endowed with a number of opportunities. What is that factor that drives them to move for greener pastures? We can look at both internally, because there is migration that is internal, and actually it comprises about 36% internal migration, people moving from the rural to the urban, but also from the urban to the rural. And also, you look at the externalization in terms of the foreign opportunities that exist, those who are moving outside. What would be the driving factors, especially for Jacinta? She shared from forced migration was her drive. What about those that live with the different opportunities that exist here?
Okay, thank you so much, our moderator and the entire team of organizers. Once again, my name is Ahura Ivan. I think there are very many reasons that can cause people to leave a beautifully endowed place like Tooro is to other places outside Tooro. One, which might be the very first reason, is them failing to realize the potentials that surround them. As we are here, we are told that Tooro has 52 crater lakes. But if we are to ask all the youth, my fellow colleagues seated here, out of the 52, how many have you visited? I think there are very few people who will tell you a half of it. And in that category of realizing the potential around you, I will use an example of birds. A crested crane is the most traded bird in this country. It is on our Uganda flag. It is on our coat of arms. And I'm going to use an example of 2 or 3 birds. The other animal, or the other bird rather, is a hen. And the other one is, I can say, an eagle and others of that kind. The crested crane is the most treasured bird in the country. But it stays in the in real sense, between a crested crane and a hen or a cock, it is a crested crane that was supposed to stay in our homes. Because when we were even growing up, they used to tell us that when you see a crested crane, please stand on attention. You remember those things? That don't throw a stone. The moment you beat a crested crane, you leave it. You remember those stories. But it did not realize its full potential. And it stays in the bush, but we stay with the cock. And for you to appreciate that, appreciate it, like if Honorable Nyanjura had visited my home, for me to appreciate her visit, I would have given her a cock as a sign of appreciation. Not a crested crane. Why? The failed to realize the potential that lies within it, the respect it possesses. But at the end of it all, the cock utilized that opportunity. And on top of helping the people of Tooro realize their potential, it brings us to something that some gentleman said, that everything rises and falls on leadership. So the leadership in a society whereby the people have failed to realize their potential, leadership is supposed to help the people in that area to realize their potential.
But where does the leaders come from?
Yes, the leaders come from the people, but the mere fact that you are a leader, we are expected you to lead society. You are entrusted with the responsibility to lead society from the unknown to the known. And in this context, we expect you to help the people to realize their full potential as a leader, make them witness and discover the potential that lie between them and around them, and help them harness these potentials. Because we have all the 52 crater lakes, but as I already said, you may even find the leaders themselves do not know about those things physically.
Maybe even if you make it clear, what are the opportunities on the crater lakes for the youth?
Now, the great opportunity, and the very first one, is tourism. Of recent, over the weekend, there was the Rwenzori Marathon in Kasese, which is a few miles from here. And that event hosted over 800 people in Kasese district. And these 800 people wanted food. The 800 people wanted accommodation. The 800 people wanted transport, bodas, taxis, special hires, and things of that kind. The 800 people wanted to touch and feel the culture that the people in the Rwenzoris have. Now, these 800 people, if you are to count and measure the amount of resources they left in Kasese over one weekend is enough to make a person or a young person like me in Kasese not leave Kasese to go elsewhere because they will have gotten some money. They will have gotten some capital to start a certain project. They will have gotten something to propel them to do certain activities for themselves. So when we harness the around these crater lakes, when we harness the potentials that lie around the culture of Tooro, which is the culture on planet Earth, when we harness the beauties around the climate that we possess in Tooro, there is no person in Tooro without testifying beauty this place possesses. So the question is, how many people are we attracting to come and build and develop the places as tourism? We are given tourism a tourism city. And of course, by the way, tourism is a low-hanging fruit. You don't need a lot to put in. You don't need a lot of money to put in because none of us constructed those crater lakes. They were already there. None of us created the mountains. We found them there. None of us created the climate. We found it there. In fact, tourism gives you the first in a business, which is capital. The capital is already there. The only responsibility you have is to harness that capital. And that's why leadership is very important. And by the way, we have one gentleman who impresses me so much. And this gentleman, many years ago, and that book was saying, what is Africa's problem? He didn't talk about very many young people. He didn't talk about very many bad roads. This gentleman didn't talk about maybe climate or any other thing of that kind. He said leaders who do what he has failed to do. I will not go too much into it. But he said leaders who overstay in power. But you realize I don't want to go much into that. But what I'm trying to tell you is he also singled out that Africa's problem lies with leadership. The same applies to Chinua Achebe and who said that Africa's problem is simply largely and squarely one of leadership. So the same applies to Tooro as a region. If we are to have the youth in this region realize their full potential, know the beauty that surrounds them, know the great important things that lie around them, then we have to focus on streamlining the leadership. That the leadership will help us, the young people, to know what lies beside us, and then we don't move around and travel to any other place to seek any greener pastures, yet we are leaving the greener pastures here.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. Ivan has thrown the biggest ball to the leaders, but maybe in the second round, I would love you to put more light. Ivan is leading a high school leadership development organization, and I would want to know that in your work, do you think you're making any strides, especially when for many years we've seen that the young people like me and you are still living like the analogy of the crested crane? We are comfortable where we are. The opportunities where we are, we can get food, we can get water in the bush, we can walk, we can fly wherever we want, even when we don't know. So, as you're moving with the Leadership Development Institute in the different high schools, do you think there is hope? I'll come back to you in the next round. To Winter, you're a lawyer by training, but also an advocate and very passionate about issues of women and issues of Tooro. I wanted to pose a question. Doctor, while presenting here, he mentioned that a number of Ugandans, actually it's about 84,000 Ugandans who live annually to Arab countries and the diaspora to look for what we term greener pastures. The biggest percentage of those, I've had an opportunity to fly with some of them. The biggest percentage are women. And Unfortunately, the reports of those that have been tortured, those who have watched the videos on social media, those who have returned home lifeless, the biggest percentage of those are women. What is wrong? And we still see many women queuing to move for the so-called greener pastures. Where is the problem?
Thank you so much, moderator. My name is Winter Sylvia Diana. I work with Charlie Mans and Company Advocates. We have 2 branches. One is in Fort Portal, another one is in Kampala. Yes, it is true. The biggest number of immigrants right now from Uganda to God knows where are women. Unfortunately, as it is, they usually say women are the backbone of the country. Like, we build homes, we build nations, but as sad as it is currently, we are not building anything, we are living. One of the practical examples I can give in my legal practice, the recent case that I faced was a mother kidnapping, I can't say kidnap, no, a grandmother was forced to kidnap her 4-month-old girl. And how does she kidnap her own granddaughter? Is she leaves for Arab country to get employed. Then she entrusts her daughter, her own daughter, to be the one to be the signatory to her account. I think there's a gross problem with remitting money back to Uganda as a worker outside. So she had to entrust the daughter with the ATM and everything to at least monitor her accounts. The daughter, as soon as the mother sent the first installment, she fell in love with some young man. The second installment, they went to Kuchala, I don't know to where. The third installment, her and the man bought land on the mother's money, you see. As time went on, of course, they had a baby. So the mother is informing her, I'm returning, I want everything. As she lands in Entebbe, at the airport, the daughter comes and undresses, like, okay, she makes a scene of how sorry she is and confesses to the mother that the only money on the account for the last 28 months is 100,000. You can just imagine. She was so angry that she took away a 4-month-old child, a granddaughter of hers. These are the people. She has stolen the mother's money, but now she's coming to me to rescue that child. You can just imagine. So we had to involve police, we had to involve everyone. Of course, the child was rescued after a month, but that is how bad the situation is getting. Migration is causing family breakdown. There is family breakdown. Then legally, the other challenges I'm facing are in regard to child neglect. We have a problem with us women now. When we fail to raise children as women, we also fail to entrust the fathers, the men we give birth to children to,
Winter,
to also carry on.
I request let's be specific.
Yes.
Why are women still moving amidst?
Exactly.
Yes. What is happening there?
The reason for women, probably culturally, I would look at this as an experience in terms of culture. Women are moving because initially we are raised as girls to be educated. After education, probably be married and then be employed, you see. Now, employment comes in mostly for a woman. Most of the time, you realize when you're at your graduation, your aunties and everyone is asking you, where is the man? So, I'm preparing myself, and marriage gives protection as women. It gives you protection because you're being catered for. There's a man working very hard to provide for you. Then you are looking after the family. So the moment that fails, so we're looking at these examples. I'm failing to be married as a woman. Then there is also a man who is very irresponsible as a youth to also marry me probably. So there is family breakdown. I do not have a sense of address because marriage gives you an address. So if I'm unmarried, I'm a single mother, you see. There is lack of provision for my child. There is lack of a man to take care of me. There is also lack of a home. Probably I'm back at my parents' home. The last resort, then I'm jobless. The last resort I have is to realize that I can find greener pastures somewhere else. Unfortunately, that now comes back to the effects. Okay, when you move, are you correcting anything? I'm as good as that because I'm living behind a toddler. then I have to go and work. There's already family, I've already broken the family system. So as much as it's hard that we are moving, probably as women, we can realize our potential and still make it better here. Because wherever we are going is also a country. How about us? Who comes to us when we also need such labor? If we can look at our, and why should we also rely? Probably one of the modern, Peter clearly told us to utilize modern contraceptives. If you realize, if I'm not a single mother, that is, if I don't have a child I'm taking care of single-handedly, my chances of survival are high. So why don't you, if you're being sexually active as a woman, the reason is, as a woman, is because the chances, the effects of childbirth are more to us. If I don't have a child, I'm 25, I'm 30, I can take care of myself more than just running out of the country. So can we utilize that? Can we be proud people? If we are recklessly moving around, comfortably buy the condoms, move with them, have a pair in your bag. That is for your own safety. As a woman, come first. Wherever you go, realize that you owe a duty of care to yourself before any other person you trust your body with.
Okay, maybe just one more question, especially when you talk about the reproductive health and especially with the family planning methods. There is a report that has been produced and there are 3 aspects of access, availability, and awareness. And when we are talking, you are a lawyer, you're educated, you live in an urban area where you have access. 72% of our population lives in the rural side. Do you think they will speak the same language as you're speaking? When it comes to access, availability, and awareness?
And awareness. It's a two-way question. They may not, or they may. One reason is they may not speak the same language, but we all know the cheapest price of a condom is around 2,000 shillings.
That's your language. That's your language. Maybe we
Yes.
can have more discussion when it comes to that. Yes. Thank you very much, Diana, for bringing out those aspects. But access to family planning, but also the cost. These are very reflective questions that have become a problem.
Hospitals, please. These are free access. Like there's accessibility is affordable in government hospitals. These contraceptives are given out for free.
I will
Can
leave
we
that question for the
utilize
government hospitals, for the Finns medical students who have been there. They will tell us what is in the health center 2, what is in the health center 3, and what exists actually in the referral hospital when it comes to the availability of these services.
Yeah.
All right, I want to go back to the last segment, then we open up to a few questions from the audience before we go to the next session. I had asked Jacinta about the well-being of our colleagues who moved. Do you think they are better off? Actually, in the refugee settlement, there is IOM, which is doing externalization of labor, that is taking refugees to different countries for different opportunities. Do you think those that move are safer there? And do you think that those who are in Kampala are also safe? Or it is better to remain in the settlement than move outside?
Yeah, thank you so much, moderator. I don't think they are safe because some face sexual exploitation, like when they go looking for jobs from different organizations, companies, they are forced into sex to get what they need. So I don't think it's, at least they better come back and look for other ways than being forced into sex, because most of the people outside are sick. People are sick of HIV, so you find young youth, young generation are going, like getting drugs. So it's...
Let me ask you a personal question.
Yes.
Do you think if you have been getting scholarships and opportunities, so if an opportunity came through IOM now that you're moving to Canada, would you turn it down?
I can't.
Okay, I leave the audience. Yes, back to Ahura. Lastly, Ivan, I want to go back to the leadership, especially with the interest in the secondary schools. For those who live around Tooro, but also I have had an opportunity to move around, I faced a nasty experience today when I was coming back from Yumbe. Along the road, I found different spots. I still remember them. One was in Nebi, one was in Karuma, and another one was along the Masindi route, Masindi-Hoima route. Young youth, young people, approximately below my age, standing on a roadside in a pair, without even a glimpse of shame, doing what you're thinking already in your minds. And many of these, I believe, are secondary school students. I want to ask my brother Ahura, you've been with these young people. The scourge of HIV prevalence is now high. Even if you do a simple round here, when we had Papa Pate last weekend, for those who were there. The coupling that was in Buhinga Stadium, some of them are young, still school-going students, secondary school. When we would have football competitions, you know what would happen. I want to ask, what do you think can be done to reverse this cycle in our area, but also in the entire country?
Thank you so much. What you've just said is true. But it doesn't rule out the fact that there are also good people and good young people in this society. But the biggest problem is the many good young people have chosen to remain silent and have chosen to keep quiet about these things that are taking place in the society. And they think maybe it is the Mugisha Muntus, the Besiges, the Bobby Wines, the Doreen Nyanjuras that will correct these things. Now, those who belong to the Catholic faith, there is a powerful sister and a powerful woman there who said that when you enter a room and you find Mother Teresa and you find the room is dark, one, you don't complain about that darkness. What you have to do is light your candle, tell your neighbor to light their candle, tell another neighbor to light their candle too, and lo and behold, darkness will be chased from that room. Now, the reason as to why this conference has been called is to tell us, the young people seated in this room, that the transformation of Tooro, the transformation of Uganda, lies in our hands. And by the way, that thing will not happen by midnight. It will be a process that all of us must be part of, consistently and deliberately, without getting tired. By the way, you asked me a question that we are doing HLD work in the different schools. How far have we reached? Yes, we may not have reached as far as we expect. But a river does not cut through a rock because it is heavy. By the water is very light. But water can pass through a rock. Not because water is powerful, but because that river continues being persistent at ensuring that it will create a road in that rock. And it continues hitting on the rock. It hits once, hits twice, hits thrice, without getting tired, and eventually the rock breaks. And it creates a road. That's what we are doing in high school leadership development. That's what we do in Africa Youth Leadership Forum. That's what CAS is doing. That's what UDRA is doing. And by the way, that is what Alliance for National Transformation is doing. That we are ensuring we continue focusing, working so hard to transform this society that many people think it cannot be corrected. That many people think that the society has been totally broken down. We are just going to be deliberate and persistent and ensure that we remain working towards that. By the way, you asked me about that issue. You see, Abraham Lincoln said that a society whose young men and women are in a constant state of slumber will never realize their potential. And as you introduced me that I am a proud Mutoro, I will translate it in Rutoro for you. Ngu ensi nekichweka ekine ensinganto abasaija na abakazi abakwikara muturo tuli tuwonyene bakwijagire nebiroto nibarota nebindi ebintu nibaraba muhansi kuli abantu abo nensi ejo telimanyira busobozi bwayo habwaki ensinganto nibaguma bachulire kandi bakwijagire. That's why we are here. That's why this conference is here to awaken all of us that please wake up, you're sleeping.
Okay.
Our society is going off the road. Examples you're giving us, the issues of the immorality along the roads, the immorality along the streets, the issues of our fellow young girls going out there and being humiliated and being made to do things that just put down their humanity as human beings. As those things are taking place, when we, the young people who have more than 70 years in this country, continue sleeping and think that somebody else will come from elsewhere and do things, we will not realize our full potential as the people of Tooro. Okay. We must roll up our sleeves and do something.
Okay. Thank you, Ahura. And lastly, I would love to go back to Diane to ask one more and last question before we go to the audience and we pick a few questions, then we can close it up. As a lady and living in this area, do you think the existing stakeholders, whom we'd call mentors of the young people, have they done enough to open our eyes to look at the opportunities that my brother Ahura has been talking about? Have they taken effort to ensure that the services you have been talking about of reproductive health are in these lower local governments and these lower health facilities? Do you think they have done enough?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator.
We are safe, please. You can go on.
I will give an example even before I go further to answer, but by the time I conclude it, you'll know whether they've done enough or not. I come from a village called Ruetera area along Fototo Kamwenge Road. That's where my father is born. In that village, I grew up from Kapala mostly, but my father brought us in Fort Portal almost every Christmas season. We always travel to check on our grandmother. I'm also a Noji of Chevampe Girls and Yakasura School. Chonka, during that time, so I love sports. I support Arsenal. I coach football. I manage football as well. I'm a football coach in Kampala, in one of the teams. So I realized the potential in my village. We had a lot of school dropouts. And I have a chance, like, the only thing boys would say, we only need a ball. You can imagine, that is something like 60,000. Boys are telling you they don't have balls. So I bought, one day I just came up, I told my father I'm going to donate a ball to the youth team. They got a ball. So later they also asked for a football jersey. That is around 150,000. That was money I could collect on my own and give them. So when I was doing that, I didn't know, the boys started participating. I pushed them at 5th division level. That was last year. They played and came out as a first rated Youngsters FC. Now we're in 4th division. But unfortunate as it is, I did that out of the passion I have for my village. And at the back of my mind, I was thinking, if boys are going to play football as a passion, and they are school dropouts, they are not gambling, because they are at the football training. And then they have a pride of, probably, I'm thinking, one day they'll be picked up by someone and then play professionally better. But at that moment, interestingly, last year, the district leader, the village leaders now sat, sub-county leaders, and made themselves position in now my football team. One of them, one who led the team was the village councillor, the sub-county councillor. Became the managing director, they had executive, and I'm thinking. So the boys called me, one of them called me, and it's like, no, for us, we want your position to be, your position, we fought for your position as the manager, but the village overpowered us. And they gave themselves positions. So I pulled back. I was like, okay, if you have positions, better for them to continue what I started. Interestingly, to date still, none of them has really come up to do better. And so I can say, unfortunately, they are failing us. However, it has not stopped me from supporting them. And sometimes I'm asked, when I tell people I have a football team that they manage, they question, is it a girls' team? Come on. It's not, but me, I believe if a boy child is also out there probably playing, he's not impregnating someone's daughter. So there's a problem still being solved at the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dan. From us, I want to really appreciate, but bottom the line is the number of reflective areas that we need to reflect as a nation of Tooro, but also as a country. I think one is the enabling environment. We are in a society that has not provided an enabling environment. Yes, moving out to look for greener pastures is not a crime, but under what circumstances do we go? Especially when we have the mandate to remit and the government is earning from us. So what is it that is there that for us we benefit from? The other day, the secretary for, I think she's the chairperson, Gender and Something Committee of Parliament, Honorable Flavia Ruabhoro, she shared an ordeal that about the women who travel to the Arab countries and how they go without basic skills on managing these equipment, these appliances. And my question was, what has the government done to these institutions that is continuing to take them amidst the issuance of licenses that have continued to be issued to the same companies, and the same companies having the same reports of the same people having the same challenges? So for me, it is a cycle. Maybe I would have said that we put the blame to our leaders, but I think it's high time we all stand up and also speak openly about what is happening. And I also feel that even if